All right, I think I'm live. I didn't realize that clicking that button, I thought it was going to test the camera and audio. I didn't realize it was actually going to put me on live a minute early. But if you can watch this, if you can hear me, say something in the chat. Let me know that my audio is working. If you can't hear me, also if you just see me moving my mouth, just say something. Okay, you can. I got the confirmation. Perfect. Thank you. Kimmy, Utia, appreciate it. So, thank you to everybody who's here and then watching this later, especially as always, because we have to start by acknowledging our Patreon supporters. So yeah, all right, we are live. It's officially 8:30 Thailand time. If I keep looking off to my right, Daria is question screening for me. Because if the chat goes too fast, I lose track of questions, and we've got a spreadsheet open where she makes sure I don't miss anything. So anything that's on your mind, please fire away. I'll start taking questions in just a couple of minutes. And the fun thing about this, I have my wine. It's a Sunday evening. The fun thing about doing these live streams is we can talk about OTR, we can talk about food history, we can talk about anything you want to talk about. But it's also fun sometimes to get off track. I used to host a sports talk show. I hosted a music talk show. Anything that you want to talk about, the Winter Olympics or the Super Bowl or movies that you've seen or anything. Let's just have some fun. It's a Sunday night. We can pretty much go anywhere with any subject, and I'm really happy to get a chance to sort of just start rambling. So quickly, just before I start kind of diving in and taking questions, Diego, thank you for the congratulations. I appreciate it. Yeah, 300,000 is crazy. But before we get to any of that stuff, just to update everybody on channel business, about 10 minutes ago, literally without exaggerating, exactly 10 minutes ago, we finished our work on the next video that's going to get posted. It will be up most likely tonight on Patreon. So as soon as I finish this live stream, Dennis and Carol are putting those last fixes in right now from our last final test, and then I'm going to upload it tonight. So as long as there's no massive faults or issues, we're going to have that up on Patreon tonight, publicly Tuesday 7 p.m. as always. The one that we just did, it's a crazy story. I'll tell you just really quickly what that is before we just start kind of, rambling. It's a live stream. About 3 years ago, right around the time, even longer, it's 2026 now, gosh. 2022, when me and Daria had been in Bangkok for a few months, we had friends who were living in Dhaka in Bangladesh who came to visit us. Really good friends from our days in Beijing, Jimmy and Raya. And so we brought them for a coffee at a place called Holy in Bangkok. And they were just like, this can't be the same Holy that we know from Bangladesh. Holy is it's a famous name over there. It was in 2016, the Dhaka Holy Artisan Bakery, which is cafe, was the site of the worst terrorist attack in the country's history. And, just a unthinkable kind of disaster. And it turns out it is the same. The Holy that's in Bangkok, there's 4 of them now, just neighborhood cafes and bakeries. It is the same owners, the same everything as the Holy Artisan Bakery that was international news in 2016 when it got stormed by terrorists and 12-hour hostage crisis, and it was crazy. It was the biggest news in the world for a couple of days, when this was happening. And so yeah, the guys who I didn't know this, I'm sure there are people in Bangkok who know about this. Nobody I knew was aware of this, and the owners had never really spoken publicly about it. They wanted to kind of, there was, as they said to me, too much. If you Google Holy Artisan Bakery, all you get is, the worst day in any of their lives. And they wanted to think about it in positive ways. It was targeted because it was the most popular place in Dhaka for foreigners and, open-minded Bangladeshis. And so I finally approach them about doing the story and pitch them on it. And they were kind enough to trust us and to agree to let us do it. And so that's why this one took a little bit of extra time. This is one of those stories that it's like, not to even smile when I'm talking about this, such a horrible story, but I was thinking about it, you go back to our first video and it's like the first moments of the first OTR video is like 11-minute video. And it's me sitting in a diner in Nonthaburi being like, I love American breakfast. And then we just go walk around and have a couple of meals. And that's the video. And if you told me that 3 years later, I was going to be spending a week deep diving into the roots of ISIS, like that, but that's the video, and crazy story, but a good story, an uplifting story. It has I wouldn't say a happy ending, but an ending, they're still standing, right? There's now 5 locations in Thailand. There is still a presence of Holy, although it has a different name in Bangladesh, and so that's the story that we just did. So again, that's one that we've kind of had in the back of our minds since we started the channel, since that visit in 2022. And yeah, finally did it and just got it done. Took a lot of work. So yeah, that should be up online on Patreon before I go to sleep tonight and publicly 7 p.m. on Tuesday. So with that, that's I don't really have anything else that I need to immediately, just throw out before I start taking questions, because that's when you're doing production, you're just living in this world for a little while. And, so yeah, for the last 3 weeks of my life, I've been in that rabbit hole. So that's just where I am right now. So let's start getting into it. First question, this comes from, I'm not even going to try and pronounce usernames. These are impossible for me to sound. Decom C Glade. That's my guess. First of all, thank you for all the great content. I appreciate it. My question is, if you were going to move from Bangkok from Europe with no real job opportunities, what would be the best / most realistic way to do it? That's a great question. Daria, maybe you have more expertise in navigating the job market than I do. Bangkok is one of those places where there are a lot of Fortune 500s here. There's a lot of big companies, but most of them hire from overseas. They're bringing people here. It's a great place to start a business. It's not the best place, I think, on the ground to find a good job. I struggled with it. That was one of the reasons we started OTR. I couldn't find work. But I think, networking, make connections, go out and once you kind of have it in your head that you want to go somewhere. I'm going to interrupt myself. Jefe Pedro, thank you so much. I appreciate it. The 10 A's, I'm going to guess that's Australian dollars. But thank you for the 10 A's. I appreciate it. When is the MSG episode, Daria? She's in the other room saying, yes, when is the MSG episode? I'm going to just go on a quick digression before I get back to the question. The MSG episode, I had it in my head we were going to do it in Japan because we need to get Ajinomoto as part of this. But then there are 2 Thai companies I could find that manufacture MSG in the Bangkok area, and I reached out to both of them 3-4 months ago. Just sent an email cold and was like, hey, here's who I am. This is what we do. I'd like to do a positive story about MSG. Can we please come and shoot in your facilities and interview people? And I know, silence, nothing. So I don't know. I'm gonna work on that. Anyway, yeah, really quickly back to the question: what would be the best, most realistic way to do it? Thailand, I believe, now has adjusted back to 60 days visa free for most countries when you come here. For those ways that people used to be able to. I'm going to swear in live streams. That's just one thing to know. I might it's just going to slip out. The ways that people used to bullshit about visas, they've cracked down on those hard. Don't come here thinking that, okay, I'm going to do a student visa, whatever it is for a year. You can't. You need a real valid visa now. And that's been the case for years, but people kept trying to dodge it. So I would say, number 1, job hunt before you come, because it seems to be difficult in a good company to get hired on the ground in Thailand. Number 2 would be come here, make connections, learn Thai, or number 3, start a business, because it's a really advantageous and friendly place to do it. this sounds like such a bad thing to say, and I don't like saying this as a positive, but the salaries are low enough that it makes it really advantageous to start anything because staffing costs are low, rental costs are still reasonable. Yeah, and it's an underserved market in most industries. It's not China where you have 1.5 billion people, but in general in Thailand, if you have an idea and you execute it well, it's a pretty open-minded place. Hope that helps. Next question, Brad Shoemaker, do you have to leave Thailand at any time? Are you an American citizen? What citizenship does Daria hold? Are we under investigation? Is this Daria's worried that this is a KGB agent? Do I have to leave Thailand at any time? No, OTR is a legal Thai registered company. So thankfully we did this the right way. We loved being here so much that we didn't want to take risks with it. So when we started OTR, we registered it as a Thai business. So we are here legally. We don't need to leave. We did when we got our visa. We do leave a lot. I mean, you can see on the channel, like we're leaving to film, but yeah, I am an American citizen, by the way. I am. My dad was from Belgium. And one time, in one of the many periods in time when the world didn't look too fondly on Americans, I reached out to this is way back 25 years ago or something. I remember I reached out to the Belgian embassy in Washington, D.C. and I said, I'd like to apply for Belgian citizenship. My father was Belgian. And the lady says, was your father an American citizen? And I said, he was. And she literally says to me in this thick, Flemish Belgian accent, then you are not a Belgian, and she hangs up the phone. So no, I'm strictly an American citizen. Thank you for your question. I believe, unless you're a KGB agent, which Daria is Russian to answer your question. Next question from PAU Powell Master. Congratulations on the 300,000. Thank you again. Suggestion: explore Timor-Leste food, East Timor food. Yes. The 194 countries, we have a lot of places we really want to get to explore. The hard thing is kind of, like you always feel like there's just too much to do and too many places to visit and stories to tell. Like, I'm so jealous of a guy like Mark Wiens who just walks around and films, because he goes everywhere. Like, I'd love to be the kind of channel where we could just just bigger the channel gets, you make a little bit of money, you just put it into plane tickets and you start going everywhere. That was kind of what I wanted when we started the channel. Then we got really competitive about doing these, it was a week to edit each video, then it was 2 weeks. Now we're at 3 weeks for most videos. And this video it's not even a long one for us. The one we just finished tonight, it's 1 hour and 9 minutes, so we really only have time to do maybe 3 international trips a year for filming, which is crazy. But when we go somewhere to shoot, it's 3 or 4 of us who are traveling as part of the team. So we usually end up filming 2 or 3 shows just to make it worthwhile and, justify the expense of going wherever we go. And so we it'll take us, once we get back from wherever we went to film, it takes us 1.5 months to work our way through it. The Vietnam trip, I think it took us 3 months to get all the videos we shot there out. We've just finally finished our Indonesia series. So yeah, I don't know. I would love to do the food in Timor-Leste. I don't know anything about it. That's the other thing too, is I kind of choose I'd love to be the kind of channel where we could go and explore, let's go somewhere crazy. Let's go to, to East Timor, to see something we don't know. The problem is, because we're a big operation, at this point, we don't make enough money to justify a trip unless we really know what we're going to do. So we kind of need to go into each shooting trip with a clear plan. I know these stories we really want to tell. So all the places that we filmed so far, not the Spice Islands, but Indonesia, and we had a personal connection there. Everywhere we've gone to film so far, Sumatra, Vientiane, northern Vietnam, wherever, all the places that we've gone to shoot are places that I really know well. And that sort of makes it easy for us, because we can come in with a plan. We know that we have our contacts on the ground. We know what we want to film. So we we can be a little bit more streamlined. We're not spending 3 weeks there just to learn it before we can film. It just doesn't. If we were doing this for Netflix and making a 10 video series, we could really kind of ramp up the amount of prep work that we could put into it. But YouTube is a volume game. You just constantly cranking out content, and that's just the nature of it. That's what you have to do to stay algorithm friendly, as we've learned the hard way before. And so the next trips are going to be like Malaysia, Hong Kong, Taiwan for sure, both probably this year. I really want to get into the subcontinent. That's such a gigantic world we haven't explored on camera yet. India, I don't know personally, but our one of the guys who's a part of OTR, Anand, is he's from there. He has a bunch of food related contents there. Sid's from there, if you remember the Sid video from a million years ago. India, Sri Lanka, potentially Bangladesh. That's also on the table. Next question from Blabberhoof. One stupid question that's answered most probably already a zillion times. No stupid questions. What does OTR actually stand for? What does it mean? Okay, if you've heard me tell the story before, I'll be quick about this, but basically, I didn't call it the Adam Gottschalk show. I didn't plan when we started OTR for it to be me on camera exclusively. Like, my idea in the beginning was I just wanted to write. I wanted to tell stories. And so I thought I would get some people together at kind of different areas of expertise. I wanted to put them, by the way, let me interrupt myself. I'm just kind of glancing over at the chat. I meant to say this last time we did this, but just to be clear, when we finish the live stream, I always go back and read through every comment. So while I'm answering questions and I'm looking at the camera and I'm not responding to everyone who says, hey, or congratulations or whatever, I'm reading it. I promise you it gets read. I appreciate it. It means a lot to me. So if I don't call it out on the fly, I just get lost in the chat. That's why Daria is feeding me questions. But anyway, so OTR wasn't going to be my show, so I had to name it something. And I made a list of, I'm terrible at naming things. All of my restaurants that I opened had terrible names. I'm just not creative at naming anything. And so I'd made a list of what I could call the channel. I think the one I was leaning towards in the beginning was, I shouldn't have started saying that without thinking it through first, because I don't remember anymore. I had one in mind that I don't remember what it was. If I think of it later, I'll bring it up. But I had a name in mind, and then I was pretty committed to doing that. It was something ridiculous, like Inside Bangkok or something like that. And I remember I said that to Joe and Steve and Daria, who were the three people who were with me the night that I was kind of pitching the idea. And Dan, 4 people who were with me the night I was pitching doing a YouTube channel. And all of them were like, that's a terrible name. So we went through the rest of the names on my list, and there was On the Road, there was Off the Rails, there was On the Record. And so I didn't really like any of them that much, but all 3 had the same initials. And we thought, let's just call it OTR. You could choose what it stands for. So that way we didn't have to choose a name. OTR, it's one of those 3. We had 3 names on the list that all had the same initials, and OTR was my way to not have to choose a name and decide what it would be. Me and Daria couldn't really come to a consensus about it. If you look at our YouTube channel, it's youtube.com/OTR on the road. If you look at our Instagram, which Daria registered us for the same day, it's OTR.offtherails. So even the 2 of us didn't actually communicate about what OTR stood for. So again, not a stupid question whatsoever. I did just notice Gary's comment. Thank you very much. We don't do this for super chat for people giving us money, just to be clear, but it is very much always appreciated. Food Taliban, how's it going? Got a chance to meet when you came through Bangkok. Do any people reach out for collaborations or pitching for ideas? Not enough. It's yes, sometimes. And I'm always enthusiastic, but people think that especially, collaborations means other YouTube channels reaching out to say, will you come on and do a guest spot, or can we do a video together? And I think because our videos are so produced, we're not a typical YouTube channel, we're making documentaries. And I think it's intimidating to a lot of people when they see this, and they think that either it means that we're going to look down on another channel that's not as highly produced and not shooting in 4K with, Dennis's amazing Sony cameras and whatever. And like, so I think what kind of filters back to me is it feels like people are kind of afraid to approach me to do collaborations because they think that I'm above it, or like I wouldn't be interested. And like, no, I love it. I would like, please contact me. If you're watching this, I don't care how big or small your channel is. I am super happy when somebody else does the work. When like, I've done it on Gary's channel a few times. I've done it on, a couple of like Fufskis, a Chinese guy shoots in New York, who asked, hey, shot me a message. It's not a big channel. Coming through Bangkok, can you come over and take me somewhere for lunch to film? And my answer is, if I'm in town and I'm not overwhelmingly busy, I always say yes to that. I think it's a blast. And like, and Gary Butler, when we were small, when I was small, we were 400 subscribers, if I remember right, like 400, not 400,000, like we were 400 subscribers. Our videos were getting like tens of views. And I reached out to Gary, who was 50,000 at the time, and 50 something thousand. But I liked his work. And I asked him, first of all, let me backtrack. He reached out to us first. He sent us an Instagram message to say, keep doing it. You guys are doing great stuff. And so I asked him, would you be willing to come on a video? And like, so for me as a nothing channel at the time with Gary, who was a big deal, agreeing to like show up, we did he came on, he was generous with his time. It got us probably 200 new subscribers just by him promoting it in a comment. And that was like, I always try and pay it forward. I always try and pay that forward. That was so helpful to us in getting anything kind of, moving. Like collaborations. If you're watching this, if you have a YouTube channel and you don't know how to, get viewers, YouTube is not going to help you. Like the YouTube algorithm will only recommend channels that are big enough that it understands who the target viewers are, because YouTube's home screen is valuable, real estate for YouTube. So it won't recommend channels that it can't figure out, which means you have to do it yourself. So in the beginning, the best thing you can do as a small YouTuber is just get the balls to reach out to a bigger YouTuber and say, who's in your niche, who's doing similar kind of stuff to what you want to do, and say like, hey, do you mind? Can we do a collaboration? Because that's the best way for a small channel to teach the YouTube algorithm, who you are, and to try and actually get a push. It's super useful. And I'm not like, we are making highly produced content. I don't feel like I'm above the fray in YouTube in any possible way. Please reach out for collaborations if you want. I'm always happy to. We'll never say no to that if I have time, as long as your channel is not like, offensive nonsense that, I don't want to be associated with. But that's highly unlikely in the food niche. I can think of one or two, but I won't bring those up here. Heather Martin, 8932. When are you going on the boat trip to the Spice Islands tour? To be determined. We're hoping October 17th, I want to say, is the date that it's supposed to. This is our Spice Islands video. Ackland was nice enough, in the wake of that, because Daria didn't get a chance to come. They were planning 2 trips this year. It's a lot of work for him and Simon, and it takes him away from his family, his wife and kids at home. And so he said, I would like to invite you to host one of the Spice Islands tours next year to me, and I can bring Daria. It's contingent on the tour selling out. I haven't talked to Ackland in a few weeks. I don't know where that stands right now. If it doesn't sell out, we can't do it, or at least it gets pushed back a year, or 6 months or so. I think they have a little window in April they can go to. At some point, we will do it as an OTR trip, but it really comes down to, it has to book out, or like we can't afford to rent the boat. Joe Bananas 23. No, another stupid question. No stupid questions. Don't worry. Quite a few of your videos have involved you eating a pretty challenging amount of food in one day. Does any video stand out as the most difficult? Yeah, we get a lot of shit about how much we eat in a day, and people are like, oh, why don't you space it out and do it over the course of like 3 days? Like, we didn't think about that. Like, first of all, Dennis, who's our lead videographer, lives in Rayong. So when he comes up to shoot, we don't have like 3-4 days. I'm bringing him up, or when we're, maybe if we're going out of town to film, we might have 4 days and we have 3 videos planned that we've got to shoot. So we really are limited in our filming time, first of all. you know, in a perfect world, would like, you know, Dennis and Carol live right across the street, and I could just text and say, hey, let's, you know, every morning go out and shoot a little bit. Like, yes, I would feel better. I will remind you, anybody who's ever been suspicious of how much we eat in a video, we shoot 2 videos a month, right? There are 30 days in a month. So the other 28 days, I do eat like a normal person. So like, don't worry, we're not doing it every day. But to answer your question, yeah, like, yeah, it's, bread was hard. Breakfast was one that the breakfast video, because that was like 8 locations. And the last one, Charlie just threw a ton of food at us. That was a really hard one. It was a really hard one. It's not food, but the coffee one just messed with. The coffee one took me like a week to recover from, just like, I don't know, 12 glasses of caffeine in like a 5-hour shoot. Daria, I don't know, anything that you could think of offhand, like a shoot that was particularly hard in terms of the amount of food that we ate? What? Noodles was hard. Rice was hard. No, noodles was hard. So we did stretch that one out over 2 days. That was a little bit staged for the camera. The noodles video, we did have, I think, 2 of our locations. We just got to the point that day where I just couldn't do it. I just could not do anymore. So we got back to that the next day. And also, like, even if we could film over the course of 3-4 days, I just want to get it done. Like, get the shoot out of the way, and then let's start writing, because all the work happens after we film. Like, we are not scripting the videos before we shoot. We shoot, and then we see what we have, and then we start building the video. So, like, until the shoot's done, I can't start working on it. I don't know what the story is. I don't know, you know, what we've just taped. And, like, with the only exception being the history ofs, you know, because those are smaller food segments that are supposed to, like, each one has a purpose that in some way, you know, is part of the overall storyline. So those ones we plan a little bit more going in, you know, for each location. But typically, yeah, in a normal shoot, we'll, like, think about like the pho video, right? Like, we didn't even know where this town was. We got lost driving there. So, like, you know, I can't start writing that video until we finish shooting. And then we get a sense of, like, you know, when I'm in production, the first thing for me, Daria, do you mind turning up the air conditioning? Like the fan, turning it up a little bit more. I'm getting, it's hot. I don't know how you sit here. This is kind of Daria's workspace during the day. I don't know how you do this. It is so hot in here. Do you have the air conditioning remote? Can you turn up the fan? Thank you. Okay. So anyway, way off topic. The point being, I like to shoot as much as we can at one go so I can get into writing and doing the video. Next question. No, getting shit about the mustache. Sheridanine SMA, seriously, what's with the walrus styling? There's a line from Joe Buck, the sportscaster, about sometimes I get bored of the monotony of my face. Now I just need to switch it out. I don't know. Call it a tribute to Bob Weir. It'll go soon enough. Like, it's here for now. I'll get bored of it in a week and then that's gone. Plain Boy 906, is the tour of the 3 Malay border provinces coming? Oh, absolutely. Like, I don't know when. Again, there's so much we want to do, and each story is taking 2-3 weeks to do, which means, you know, it will get there one day. The old Patani part of, you know, of the Thai Malay border, Patani Sultanate, the 3 provinces along the border, and the northern one in Malaysia. I just, like, first of all, politically, we've told that story a bunch of times in our roti curry video, for one thing, but, like, I just love that food. That's one of my favorite food zones in the world. Like, I love the food in southern Thailand so much, and in the the Muslim border provinces, like, that to me is it's just one of my all-time favorite places anywhere on earth to go on a road trip. And yeah, politically, you know, historically, it's a very interesting region. So one day I would love to. We do have some, you know, when we start kind of thinking ahead that we might do a video somewhere, my Google Maps, I start kind of just killing time at night right before I fall asleep, just kind of scrolling through Google Maps, looking at, you know, okay, if we go here to film, what do the restaurants look like? And so yeah, I have tons of restaurants pinned across Patani, Yala, Naratiwat, you know, that whole region, in case one day we can get there to shoot. Sip of wine, then on to the next question. Love the channel. This is Dace Rowan. Don't know if this has been asked before. how did you two end up in China originally? How does an American become a successful restaurateur in China of all places? And then Daria says, no, read the next two after together. Okay, so we kind of have a 3-question series on China. Next one is, what's your favorite type of Chinese food? Sichuan, Cantonese, etc. And the last one is, I also have a lot of instrumentals on my channel. Thank you. I'll have a look at that. And Malachi 532, do you plan on doing videos in China? Okay, I'll take those one by one in order. Received. First one, how did we end up in China originally? For Daria, it's really simple. Her home city in Russia is on the Chinese border. And so like literally, if you look at a map of China, you see Heilongjiang province in the northeast, and Daria's home city is right across the river. So for her, it's the best place to go to school. It was like, that's, if you're lucky, you get a chance to go to university in China because it was a better opportunity, especially then. I don't know about now, but that was like the hope was you get a chance to get a scholarship to go to China. So she came there for school, stayed for work, learned fluent Chinese, got her master's degree in Chinese, and stayed. For me, I was laid off in the 2008 financial crisis as a sportscaster. Did not have a backup plan, didn't know what I wanted to do, was in a bad place at the time in terms of like I had no confidence in my career. Everyone who was older than me was struggling to find work. The media industry took a really big hit, and it really hasn't recovered. It never recovered from that. And I just didn't have any idea what I wanted to do. And I was working in restaurants. I was like paying my bills and working in restaurants, and I was working in a Chinese restaurant, but not for money. That's a different story I'll get into another time, or later. But yeah, so girlfriend at the time also lost her job during the financial crisis, or couldn't find a job. She just finished her master's degree. So she took a job for a year, decided to wait out the crisis and go teach English in Asia. So she applied for work in Korea, in China, in a few places, and she ended up getting placed in Shenzhen in South China. And I agreed to try to make a long distance relationship work. The condition that we set was that I would come to visit. And my passport had expired years ago at that point. Like I had no expectation or thought of ever visiting Asia, much less moving there. It was just the farthest thing from my frame of reference. And that was obviously we all back then were Anthony Bourdain fans, and so I got excited about once I knew I was going, then I got really excited about it. And yeah, like got off the plane in Hong Kong, knew within 10 minutes that I was never wanted to leave Asia. It just immediately the sights and the smells and the sounds and the guy like cooking street food noodles and getting a beer from a convenience store, which in America, like sitting in the street drinking a beer, you're getting arrested. Like just that first 10 minutes of being on the ground after landing in South China, it wasn't that I liked China, it's that I liked myself there more. Like that was the thing that I kind of took away from it, was that like I was a shit student, not a good student, not a committed student. Because to me, school was always what you did because you had to get that piece of paper. And being in China was the first time that I ever wanted to learn. I wanted to understand everything around me. It was just so like unfathomable and big, and things were happening. And in America, like I'm not blasting my country, but there's an energy that's lacking that is noticeable, and we are such a country that is so like we've all been beaten into submission that you have to work for a big company. You don't start your own thing. It's get a job, get promoted, retire, take your 401k and die. And that's the path. And I found in Asia this sort of hustle that I didn't know that I was missing, but it just felt so alive. And yeah, I stayed. So she left. The girlfriend who I came to visit, she left, and I stayed. What was the second question? Favorite type of Chinese food? I gravitate towards Sichuan. What did Chris and Steph do in their videos? Like, was it 63 types of Chinese food that they identified? I will say, and this is going to piss off a lot of people, Cantonese is my least favorite of the famous categories. Shanghainese is close. I I respect the techniques of Southern China, but to me, like, you really need to be, I don't eat Cantonese food unless I'm in Guangdong, because it's so technical and subtle that if the technique's not perfect, to me, it's pretty uninteresting and bland. I'm sure that if you grew up in a Cantonese household, mom knows how to cook, at a much higher level than what you're going to get at a Cantonese restaurant overseas. But yeah, no, my first love was Sichuan food, which again, there's a lot of different categories of Sichuan food. I trained as a Sichuan chef. That was my specialty. I know how to cook Sichuan food. I know how to prep a Sichuan kitchen. I trained under the world's greatest, Peter Chung, the world's best Sichuan chef, and so, like, not trained under him, but I learned from him, and I learned to speak Chinese in his kitchen, volunteering before I came to China. And so I don't know. Sichuan food is my love. Heilongjiang, the far northeast, is the most underrated. The big thick stews, and Xinjiang. If you we're not talking politics, but calling it China, but it's within the country of China. Xinjiang food is so, like, that's my comfort food. That's the first meal I'm going to have when I go back to China at some point. Which, yeah, there's a lot. It's a hard question. Beijing, I don't know. Every village and every town in China has some masterpiece. That's the beautiful thing about Chinese food, is that China had such lacking infrastructure for so long, until like the 1980s, really. Like, villages were almost disconnected from each other. So every town and village in China still has dishes that are only made there and nowhere else. And so, to me, China, is it my favorite food country on earth? Maybe not. At this point, would I be so confident in saying that it is by far the most fascinating food country, and if you have one country to explore for food, China is the most rewarding. It's just, there's so many secrets absolutely everywhere. Do we plan to do videos in China? That's a more complicated question. First of all, I don't feel confident at this point, given the current Chinese government, that it's safe even though I speak fairly fluent Chinese, that it's safe for a foreigner to walk around with video cameras in China. It's not really open to that right now, and that's an easy way to draw a bad kind of attention. And then second of all, we didn't really leave on good terms. I don't want to. Problem with filming in China is I would feel like I'm promoting tourism to China. People watch our videos and they get inspired to go experience what we did. I adore a lot of things about China. It was the most formative. I was there for 12 years, right? It made me who I am. But right now, at this moment in time, given what me and Daria went through in the last couple of years there, I personally don't feel right about pitching you to visit China. I don't personally believe that you should, under this current administration. That's my take on that. Yeah, anyway, was that too honest, Daria? Is that all right? Did I, what? It was good? Did I thread that needle? All right, let me have a quick sip of water, and then Jim Pierce, I'll get to your question. Jim, I've seen your name pop up in our videos almost since the beginning. Thank you for following our channel for years. Have you tapped into resources at Thai PBS? They are producing a lot of food content with chefs, food explorers, food historians, etc. No, to be honest, I have this weird thing where I watch zero food content. I don't know who's making what. I'm sure that Thai PBS would be a great resource. They might have reached out to me at one point, and I granted them permission to use one of, I think that was Thai PBS. I think so. But I won't watch any food content, zero. Like, I'll watch some of Gary's videos because I love Gary and because it's so different from what we do. I'll watch Chris and Steph's videos sometimes, just for fun because Chris from Chinese Cooking Demystified and I were the two people who used to explore every village in China for its random foods. Yeah, so my problem with watching YouTube food content, give me 1 second. Sorry, this is unprofessional, but I just got a message that I need to check. We're putting the finishing touches on the new video that's almost done. And Carol just sent me something that I asked for. Daria, can you message Carol back in that chat and say that looks perfect? Thank you. Just confirming one last thing before we render our new video that's about to come out. So yeah, sorry about that. But work comes first. Yeah, no. So when I watch another YouTube channel, or a food documentary, like everyone always asks me, like, have you seen what somebody feed Phil or any of this? No, never. I haven't. And it's not because I don't want to. It's because what I do is so hard. And I'm not saying that for sympathy. I just mean that, like, you know, we're trying to get so immersive in our storytelling that it's physically and mentally breaking. It's hard. It's really hard. And there's never been a video that we've done, not the current one that we're working on. There's never been a video that we've done since we started OTR, ever, not one, where at some point I have not thought to myself, this is the one I can't do. I won't be able to finish this. It's not working. I can't figure it out. I just can't do it. And then, you know, you just keep trying, and draft 12, draft 14, some pieces start working. And then you figure out, okay, that's the story that we're telling. That's the tone. This is what's, you know, and eventually it comes out. You know, you're chiseling from a big block of marble. That's all your footage and your interviews and everything. And then what's left is the video. When I watch other food content, my fear is that it's not that I don't think I'm going to like it. It's that I think I'm afraid that I'm going to like it. My problem is it gets into my head. The last thing I need, as hard as it is to write these videos, it would be impossible for me if, like, think about playing golf. You're standing over the ball, you know, you have 10 friends who are all shouting out advice on what you should do, right? Like, somebody's telling you where to put your elbow, and then you've got somebody telling you to interlock your fingers and your shoulders. And by the time you swing, like, you're such a mental mess that you're overthinking everything and it falls to pieces. And that's me with writing, is that I'm afraid that if I watch other food related content or anything similar to what we do, I'm going to like it, and it's going to get into my head, and I'm going to start second guessing myself and thinking, like, oh man, you know, that was so good, I should do it this way. Or, oh no, that's so much better than me at this. And then you start overthinking everything, and you're trying to kind of not, you know, it took a long time when we started OTR. It took a long time for me to find my own writing voice. If you watch our first half dozen videos, I am cosplaying Anthony Bourdain. I didn't realize it at the time, but, like, I go back and watch our first 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 videos, and I sound like an AI Anthony Bourdain voice generator. Like, I hadn't figured out how to write for myself yet. And it took until the Curry Puffs video. That was the first one that we ever did where I felt like the Curry Puffs video, if you never saw it, that's the first good video we ever made. Sriracha was a good video. That was earlier, but I don't watch the Sriracha video and feel like that's me. I feel like that's me doing an impression of a food YouTube channel that just happened to make a good video because the story was good. But, like, the Curry Puffs video is the first one where I actually felt like I found how to write as myself. And yeah, so no, I don't watch I don't know if this has anything to do with, this is very off topic from the question, but it's my live stream. It's what happens when you talk to yourself. Amanda Sigo, ever do the history of peanuts? And we haven't yet. We will. That was actually on the list of one that I thought about doing for the last video. You know, every history has been worked on in the background for months, and there's always a few that are in process right now. Since you're watching this live stream, I will let you in on the secrets we're working on. Probably the next one that I'll do is going to be the history of utensils. I'm just super interested in, like, cutlery, forks, knives, spoons, chopsticks, like, you know, that's one that we're pretty far along in the research. That will probably be the next or the following one. You know, it was almost the last one. I almost did that instead of tomatoes. Cutlery's on the list. Peanuts is on the list. So I've got my pages of my first notes on what I've read about peanuts, because I at least want something to draw from when we start in. It's too much. We couldn't do these videos in 2 weeks of research. That's impossible. So there's always something going on in the background. What else have we been working on? Yeah, there's a few. I don't know if peanuts will be the next one we would do, because it's a New World ingredient. We just did tomatoes. So I try and kind of diversify food topics, so they're not all like, oh, this originated in China, this also originated in China. Like, I try to mix it up as much as I can, just for the sake of keeping it interesting, not just for you, but for me. You know, it's a lot more fun when you're reading about a whole new set of facts rather than just, like, Yeah. Okay. We're back to this again. But yeah, peanuts, we will do it. Joe Bananas 23. Do you have any recommendations for Georgian food in Bangkok? Avra. That's the only. Daria, is that the only Georgian restaurant in Bangkok? Argo. Well, Argo, same owners. So Argo and Avra, both are not just the only Georgian restaurants in Bangkok. They're very good. There's a good one we taped at in Phuket. I think there's Georgian restaurants in Pattaya, but in Bangkok, Avra is between locations. They're almost done, I think, with renovation of their new location, which is going to be on 33/1 behind the grocery store near Hair of the Dog. I realize if you're not watching in Bangkok, none of that means anything to you, but yeah, Avra, the new location, is going to open soon. Argo it's in Nana somewhere. But they're both great. Me and Daria love both of those restaurants. We used to do New Year's Eve every year at Avra. Okay, Eric Heichel. Hey, Eric, how's it going? 2 quick ones. One dish you never get tired of in Bangkok. Something from home you can't get in Bangkok that you miss. Both great questions. One dish I never get tired of in Bangkok. Are we talking about like one dish as in pad kapow, or are we talking about one dish as in this one restaurant's version of X, Y, and Z? I'll answer both of those. One dish I never get tired of in Bangkok would be, this is not a dish, it's a combination grilled chicken, somtam sticky rice, Isan food. Like, never get tired of it. Will never get tired of it. Yeah, that's one thing I never get tired of. And then for one specific restaurant, when I'm out of town, I come back, I don't feel like going out to a restaurant. The first thing I order on Grab for delivery is almost always the dried beef rice bowl from 100 Mahaset. That's my one dish in Bangkok that I never get tired of. That's still my go-to, like, once every week or 10 days delivery, Charlie's dried beef rice bowl, 100 Mahaset. It's fantastic. That's my go-to answer for that one. Anything from back home you can't get in Bangkok that you miss? Bodo's Bagels. Bodo's Bagels, Charlottesville, Virginia. That's my answer. Good barbecue. There is decent barbecue here. It's not America. It's not the South. It's not Virginia. It's not North Carolina. Where my home is. So yeah, good barbecue. Bodo's Bagels. Those are the answers. Writing in Thai. Can you read Thai? My Thai is disgraceful after as long as I've been here. Thai as a written language is hard. It's hard. But I'm trying. My restaurant Thai has gotten pretty good, at least by now. Have you ever been to Koh Chang? We're coming over the next month. My girlfriend has it in her mind that I would love it. Seems like more hassle than it's worth to get there. There are 2 Koh Changs, just to be clear. There's the one that's like in near Ranong, in the on the east area. I'm going to interrupt the questions. Blanca's like pawing at the water bowl. Can you get water for the dog, please? Thank you. There's the Koh Chang that's very rarely visited. We have not been there. We are actually going to go there pretty soon to film, which is a different story that I'll get into. But Koh Chang, I assume you mean the popular one, the one that's near the Cambodian border in Trat province. Yes, we've been there. Absolutely love it. Went there by myself as a backpacker about 15 years ago. Had a terrible experience. Swore I would never go back. Went back with Daria, and we stayed on the not the side that faces the ocean, which, by the way, is also so much nicer than it used to be. It's not as much of a free for all for the worst humans in the world that it used to be. In the popular beaches there. We stayed at the tip of the side that faces the inland, the inland facing side of Koh Chang. I don't remember the name of the place we stayed. I can look. If you send us a message, otrbkk@gmail.com, I will try to find you the name of where we stayed. But that whole part of the island was just absolutely stunning. There's a couple of old fishing villages that still survive. It's quiet. It's gorgeous. And you're on a motorbike. if you're on the side of the island that I really like, facing inland, you what? Traveler's End. That sounds right. That might have been the one that, I don't know, something like that. But the problem is the road is so dangerous going to the famous side on a motorbike. I did it once and I was like, never again. If we come here, we're just going to stay where we stay. If we need to go to the other side of the island, we'll take a car. But yeah, to answer your question, strongly recommended. Honestly, I love it. It's my favorite island that we've been to in Thailand ever at this point. And strongly recommended. But my advice would be stay on the less touristy side of the island. That's a little bit more real and more rewarding, and it's still incredible. Okay, if you had to pick your favorite dish from each of these countries, Thailand, China, and India, one favorite dish from each of these countries, I don't know if I can do that. The thing about a dish is, it's like if I asked you to name your favorite song, whatever you think of today as your favorite song, you're going to listen to it for the next 10 days, and then you're going to burn out on it, and then it's not going to be your favorite song anymore. And it doesn't mean that the song is any less fantastic. It just means that you've beaten it into the ground so much that you just can't do it. And that's kind of me with food for the most part. Like there were times when, if you watch our OTR videos from the beginning, there were probably, I'm sure that there have been more than one video where I've been like, this is my favorite dish in Thailand. And if you were to watch like 4 videos of me saying that, you'd be like, oh, this guy's just, he's just full of it. He's just saying that he loves everything. But no, I'm sure at the time we made that video, I truly believed it. But then, you eat it so much that eventually you just sort of, you're ready for something else. That was the case with khao yum. Khao yum was unequivocally my absolute favorite dish in Thailand at the time we made that video. I still love it. I don't need it every day the way that I used to. Again, like that classic Isan somtam grilled meat and sticky rice, or sometimes sausage and sticky rice, is still very much my comfort spot when it comes to Thai food. I don't know. That would be my first answer, probably. Chinese food, it's got to be Sichuan Ladziti, spicy chicken. And Indian food, I think for me, again, really, China and India are combined like 3 billion people. These are massive countries, and to say there's one dish, but I think so far the best thing that I've had in India, Indian food, would be Lucknow style biryani. That would be my first answer for that. For the one thing that stands out for me as my favorite Indian dish so far. I'm sure that's going to change, or just the I don't know, not even good at it. Like there's a lot that could go a lot of different directions. Got a couple more to catch up on. Could you do more videos about vegan? I put the emphasis in the wrong place. Could you do more videos on vegan food? Yes. Yeah. We chase stories. Yes. Like I'm really, we did the Sentia Sock video when we first started, and then we did the J Festival video. I come from a family where a lot of people, close to me are vegans or vegetarians. Like I grew up in a fairly, with exceptions, but generally a vegetarian household. Like me and Daria still eat, we'll, as often as we can, if we can't think of what to eat, we're going to go vegetarian if we don't have anything in mind for what we want. But yeah, I don't know. Like, again, it's just my priority when I'm thinking of what to do as a story is, what's the story? What do I want to write? What can I, what has a narrative that I want to tell? And yeah, I just don't, like, at some point, I don't know. We don't search out topics based on, I want to do a vegan food video. I want to do a video about this dish that has chicken in it or whatever it is. It's just, there's, if there's a chef that has an incredible story that we get contacted or find out about, who happens to give us another vegan related angle to get into, then yeah, I would do it in a heartbeat. I think when we start, I was mentioning earlier that I want to do a lot of stories in the subcontinent within the next year. We start filming in India a little bit. My absolute probably favorite meal I've ever had. Ever. Daria, would you agree with this? Potentially, maybe the best meal we ever had together, ever. Kitchen Garden in Sri Lanka. fully vegan Sri Lankan restaurant, the absolute, like, that almost made me change my life's direction, that restaurant. You know, if we ever get a chance to make it to film in Sri Lanka, that is, you know, that country is just an absolute masterpiece of foods that don't use meat. That gives me an angle that we can follow. But yeah, understood. We'll take it under advisement. Can you do the history of cheese? Also under advisement one day for sure. Do you use any AI in your creative work to reduce your workload? No, zero. No, I don't, because I don't trust it. I'm a dinosaur. I still write notes on paper and pen. One of my closest friends on earth is an AI pioneer, a guy who, and I say that like he was the director of invention for IBM. He's a very, like, he is one of the world's 10 leading pioneers in AI, probably. And he came to visit Daria and I with his incredible wife, Victoria. Rick came here last year, stayed with us for a while. And Rick is a big believer in everything that I say about how I don't like AI, I don't trust it, I don't want to use it. He has a counter for all of it and how it can actually be a beneficial assistant and tool for me to use. But and so I'm not one of those people who's like, don't ever use AI in your work. I'm sure that if you're smarter than me, you can find a way to use it in a productive sense. I don't know that way. I'm not interested in finding out that way. I have my workflow. I know. Yeah, no, I don't use any AI at all. At all. Since you cook, have you thought about doing a supper club? I've thought about doing so many things. Like so many things. I wanted to do something where, we have all these ideas of things that I'd like to do. The problem is a supper club, I've been asked about that before, about doing something where, like, you know, maybe we do a little pop-up in a kitchen as a private event somewhere. I think that would be a blast to do. You know, I wanted to do a series where we would run out a movie theater in Bangkok and do question and answers, where we do a screening of like our Spice Islands video, for example, and me and Dennis would come up and answer questions afterwards and talk about the experience. And we had all these ideas of things we want to do, making t-shirts, you know, for the channel, like all these little things. The problem is we're such a small operation and it's so much work that I just get small. Like, you know, I'm working 15 to 20 hours a day without exaggerating while we're in production on a video. And there's just no time for me to think about doing something else. So supper club would be a great idea. The problem is I know that if I say, okay, 2 months from now, we're going to do this special event, you know, where I'm going to do a little pop-up dinner, I know that a week before the event, I'm going to be looking for excuses to get out of it, because I'm going to be so over my head, swamped in writing and production, that I just, at some point when our channel has a little bit more manpower and we can hopefully slow down our pace a little bit, I'll take on these other side projects. You know, we had one guy contact me about opening a restaurant. I don't want to ever do that again. This is so much more fun and fulfilling for me. But I loved the idea of doing something in Bangkok where some of these people that we have spotlighted that don't have much behind them. There was a place in Beijing that was called the Hatchery, which is super smart. It was like an incubator where it was, at least the concept of it was a food hall, basically, that would provide space to people who had cool ideas, you know, or chefs that didn't have means, but then they could showcase themselves and find investment. And, you know, if they were doing it well and build an audience and build their names. And I don't know the outcome of it, whether it ended up working out or not, but that's my idea for Bangkok. One day, what I'd really like to do would be to put our clout, whatever that may be, behind a restaurant that has nothing to do with me or my food, but to be able to give like Chef Ga a platform, you know, to like, there's so many cool little kind of like, you know, there's this Isan, this lady from Nakhon Ratchasima, who's the best Isan chef in Bangkok. We haven't even had her on the channel yet. I haven't found a video yet to bring her into, but like these people that deserve, you know, there's 250,000 restaurants in Bangkok, including street carts, whatever the number is. And like, how do you stand out? And there's so much luck behind it. And, you know, J-Fi's got a Michelin star and Chef Gaz, you know, cooking at a tiny little counter, you know, in the middle of a slum. And like, it's just, there's so much luck and connections in anybody breaking through and making it in this business that would be where I would be really interested in doing something food related, not to showcase myself, but to hopefully one day, create something here that can shine a light on anybody who's deserving. That's the long-term idea. Okay, gonna have a sip of water. Planning a trip to Chiang Rai soon. We'll be going to Kuma. Chef Riley from Canvas, he's up there. Have you guys been there yet? It looks very interesting for fine dining. No, I have not. Also on my list. Also on my list. Do you have any black rice recipes you particularly love? From Dano the Baldy Hyde. Black rice recipes that I love. Cooking at home, I make a lot of Japanese inspired dishes with black rice. There's a thing that I like to cook here where just sometimes, if I'm out having a beer near the Japanese supermarket, I will literally I always keep black rice at home. I'll just cook it down in some mirin and a little bit of ponzu and fry up some garlic. Put the crispy garlic in with the rice, little salmon on top. It's a little bit more involved than that. But yeah, black rice works really well with Japanese flavors to me. That's something I like making at home. So yeah, I think I've officially caught up on questions. If there's any more that you want to jump in and ask, please feel free to do it. Thank you. I'm not wrapping up. I haven't even had one glass of wine yet. I've been talking nonstop. So yeah, if anybody has any more questions, again, channel food. Otherwise, please feel free to throw them in. I'm here for you. That's why we enjoy doing this. So I'm going to just give me 1 second to have a sip of wine and then I'll jump back in. Daria, am I fully caught up?
There was a few questions.
Okay, Gary just asks, any questions, any guidance for eating street food safely? Look for a crowd. I have two rules on eating street food, one of which I stand behind fully, the other of which I don't, but it's just for me. My street food rules are simple, which is number one, if there's a line, I trust it because nobody wants to get food poisoning. So if you see not a line of foreigners, but like a line, if you see a line of local people at a food stall, of course it's safe. This arrogance that a lot of people have of oh, that's dirty, we can't eat it. When you see local people, Thai people don't want food poisoning either. If you're in Vietnam and you see somebody on the street and there's a cart that has a line of local people, get in the fucking line. It's fine. Nobody wants to get sick from eating. You can trust it. The second one is a little bit more specific. I don't eat shellfish from street carts. That's just the one thing that even if it's popular, that's my one rule. The only thing that I will restrict myself from eating at a street cart, I will not eat personally. And again, I'm not telling you not to do it. I don't eat shellfish from a street cart. Fish, I have a little bit more confidence in. Shellfish, you see it. Usually there's not that many street carts that are keeping shellfish alive before service. And I don't know, that violates everything that I've ever been trained in as a chef, which is that if you serve shellfish that's not alive anymore, it'll kill you. That's just waiting for an excuse to kill you. So no, those are my two rules about street food. If you see a line, get in it. And I don't personally eat shellfish from a street cart. I need to have some confidence that is, anyway, I'm not telling you not to. I'm sure that I said that to Gary when we did our video on street food, and he looked at me like I was crazy, and I trust Gary's judgment on it. But yeah, for me, that's my one rule. Bill says I'd like to see a video on a Hanuman in Chiang Rai. Is that doable? He's in Chiang Mai, not Chiang Rai. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know. It's a hard one. I'm sure that he would have an interesting story to tell. For me, I just have this, I don't know, I get Chef McDang's skepticism about foreigners who declare themselves to be masters of Thai food, and I'm not saying anything specific to Hanuman, but if I'm trying to go into the story of a dish or the story of a food, I feel like OTR is better served by focusing on, on people who kind of grew up in that. I don't know. Anyway, it's me kind of quoting Chef McDang on it a little bit, but like, yeah, I don't know much about Chef Hanuman or what he does, but I know a lot of people who believe in his cooking school. I'm sure it's fantastic. I know he has a good collection of old funeral cookbooks and recipe books, which he's learned a lot from, but we do too, so I don't know, to answer your question, but like, yeah, good for him. It seems like a really exciting cooking school. What is the red? What are we drinking? Moulin de Raison, hot Medoc. It's a Medoc. It's whatever Daria brought home from. Where'd you get this? Villa Market?
I don't remember.
Yeah. It's whatever we brought home. Thank you for asking. I'm not endorsing it, by the way, but it is pretty good. Simmer Spice, curious about your story. Tell us a bit about how life led you to where you are. Well, thank goodness I have wine. Very briefly, a lot of careers, but two main careers were restaurant business. I say I'm a chef on the channel, and I am, in a way. I have run a lot of restaurant kitchens, but most of my time in the restaurant business was more on the business side. I would set up a kitchen and train my chefs, but I haven't full-time been a chef cooking in a kitchen since like 2013. My specialty in restaurants was the operations and business. I know how to design a restaurant. I know how to, do a layout and put in SOPs and train a staff and, and make a profit and organize a kitchen. And, that's my strength in a restaurant is very much like the overall operational side of it. I'm not the guy who, there's another reason people are like, oh, why don't you do more cooking stuff? Because I'm not a great chef. I was a good chef. I trained under great chefs, but I'm not a master chef. I was very good in the restaurant business, and cooking was part of that. But yeah, no, my other career, from a young age, I was that kid who used to mute the TV and listen to games on the radio. I would sit there and like pretend to announce my brother's T-ball games when he was 5 and I was 8. I always wanted to be a sports commentator. I thought that was like, I grew up in a house where I didn't really have TV. We had a television, but we had those 3 antenna channels. And so I was the only sports fan in my family as a kid. My dad was from Belgium. My mother grew up in a hippie family. And I was, I was the one who wanted to watch a ball game. Nobody else did. And so I would go to my room at 7 o'clock and turn on a radio. And I just fell in love with the art of broadcasting from a really young age, of painting a picture with words. And so I started interning at 15 years old, and immediately would pick up hours, and from age 16 on, I was working full time in broadcasting. And by the time I was 19, I was doing national broadcasts on contract. Our radio network was on the air across 24 states. Like, I had a good career in sportscasting. But then, yeah, I was saying it earlier in this live stream, that fell apart during the financial crisis. I don't know. When you ask me who I am, I guess that's, I'm just talking about work. Who am I personally? Yeah, no, I don't know how to answer. That's a very big question. How did life lead me here? I fell in love with living in Asia. I've explained earlier in the live stream how we came here, to China in the first place. From China, we came to Thailand when we had to leave China during COVID, and Thailand was the only country that would take an American, a Russian, and 2 rescue dogs with no notice in the middle of a pandemic. So we came to Thailand. But in terms of how life led you to where you are, meaning doing this YouTube channel, I'll give you one more little answer to that. And I know that there's no way I can satisfactorily answer that question. Who am I? I am a guy who likes, I'm a diehard sports guy. I still love it. I'll wake up at 7 o'clock in the morning to watch hockey games still, football. I thought I would be a competitive baseball player. When I was 15, I looked like I was 6. So like, I learned pretty young that being a professional athlete was not in my future. But yeah, sports was always important to me. Music, I don't know, well-rounded person, or try to be. When I was young, I used to when YouTube started, I want to say in 2006, and I was one of the first YouTubers ever. I, at the time, here's something that I can't leave this live stream because I don't want to embarrass anybody, right? So this isn't going to leave this live stream. This is just between us. So two of my best friends in college were guys named Ian and Gordy. Ian Cunningham is now, as of about a month ago, he's now the general manager of the Atlanta Falcons football team, and Gordy Samus is now the offensive coordinator for TCU in football. So they were both college football players at Virginia, and I was a sportscaster, and we were best of friends off the field. We were, hanging out in the same house, and I was working in broadcasting. So the two of them used to hassle me about, we should do a show together. Let's do a show. So I had keys to the radio station. I would break us in at midnight when nobody was using the studios, and we would tape something together. And that ended up becoming a pretty big deal for a while. That show, like big deal, for what it was. We were early YouTube adapters. Like, we had a good following on YouTube. We got kicked out. Like, all of our videos got taken down years and years and years ago because there was no such thing as copyright law back then. Like, we didn't know anything about it. We were just using whatever songs we wanted to use. We were like playing video clips. We were prank calling people. Like, we were breaking all the rules that didn't exist yet. So of course, one day later, all of that got taken down because, it's like blatant violations of a million copyright laws. But there was one time we were doing a show, and we had this guy producing for us, David Dillahunt, who went to high school with me. And I'd never sat in on an edit before. And we did this video where we shot off outside of our studio for the first time. We went out and we just filmed. We did a bar crawl or something like that. I think Ian and Gordy were away at a football game. So it was just me and my other co-host, Nick. And we went out and did a bar crawl. And David came along and filmed it. And we taped like hours of footage. And it's like, okay, how do we make this into a video? Normally, we're just sitting here at a desk talking to each other. But we filmed this bar crawl. And I remember David, at the time we were using Final Cut, which had just come out, the video editing software. And I remember in David's room, like, he had his big computer set up with Final Cut, and we sat there together. He knew how to use it. I didn't, so I didn't even try. But I would sit with him, and we were working through this edit of how to make this video. And I don't know, I just found that such magic. Like, I fell in love with the process of editing, of like, video to me was that day, it just became magic of like, wow, we started with no plan. We had no idea what we were going to do. We had 4 hours of footage, and it was such freedom. It's like, you know what, this would be funny. How about it would be funny if we threw a little bit of banjo music here and we do a little animation where we're just walking from here to here. Let's just try that. We try it, and it's hilarious. But it would be even funnier if we just cut it off hard, and then how about we have that shot where I'm just sitting at the bar with a beer in my hand. Why don't we start with that? And you just plug these things in and you see it come to life. And I thought that was so cool. And when the idea came up to do OTR, that was very much in my head. That was 20 years ago. But like, I thought, I'd never imagined that I would have the opportunity to do something where I could make a living doing that, taping something that I think is interesting, and then spending all of my time, being a small part of that magic trick of taking this footage and building it into something that I'm proud of. And I still have so much fun. It's still like, it's stressful and it's physically exhausting and it's mentally exhausting, but like, I still find it magic. I love it. I love the writing part of it. I love the storytelling part of it. But what I really love is starting a video without knowing what's going to come out of it, and then slowly watching it take shape, and then realizing, again, there are no rules. Like, I'll sit there for a week and work on this one section of the video, and it's just not working. It's just not working. And finally you realize I can just delete it. It can go. We don't need to use that. It's very difficult to remember how much freedom there really is in storytelling, in this medium. I love it. I don't know if that answers your question at all, but yeah. So OTR is a product of that moment, as well as having worked as a chef and having been a journalist. Long answer, but on the second glass of wine now, so I can start opening up a little bit, just like this beautiful red wine is. Kimmy, any plans to visit and film in the Philippines? My uncle's a chef there who founded the first culinary school and has also written many books about Filipino cuisine. I could hook you up with him if you want. Yes, please. That is absolutely, we would like that contact. That sounds incredible. Strictly from a greedy standpoint, from a Adam being greedy perspective, the Philippines is a gigantic YouTube consumption market. I want to say that it's second in the world behind India for people who actually watch. YouTube is, in China, it's Bilibili, and, in Thailand, there's a lot of Facebook platform, but in the Philippines, YouTube is big. And we didn't really understand how big it was until we did our What is Filipino Food video, and that just rocketed to 1 million and something views. So I don't know. Carol, who's our editor, and when we can, she's our one of our ace cinematographers as well. Carol is from the Philippines, and so I have a Filipino team member who's a huge part of what we do with OTR, which makes it extremely exciting and viable. It's a massive YouTube consumption market. It's massively misunderstood for food, and I love the Philippines. I opened a Filipino restaurant at one point in China. It wasn't let's overstating a little bit. I took over a restaurant that was serving Mexican food, and I rebranded it as a Mexican Filipino fusion place, because sisig should be fajitas, and nachos in the Filipino style with chicken skin is just so much better. And so I'm in love with Filipino food. I think it's amazing. That is very high on the list for us to film in the Philippines, not just because I want to do it, but because we have Carol. We're a 3-person team, 4 if you include Daria. So we're a 4-person team, and one of the 4 of us or 3 of us is from the Philippines. So yes, we are absolutely going to film there. Hopefully sooner rather than later. All right. So it's 9:45 p.m. I'm going to take this, say, for another 20 minutes or so. Then I got to get back to work and upload this new video. Again, our new video on this amazing holy artisan bakery after the terrorist attack in Bangladesh. That video will be up on Patreon tonight. Carol just sent me the link to the last render file. So when we finish this live stream, I'm going to upload it, post it to Patreon, and then publicly Tuesday night, 7 p.m. Would the history of Chinese food as it left China interest you, as in how it changed, got to other countries in Asia, then America and Europe? First of all, to answer that question, yes. Second of all, that's the subject of a video that we're probably going to do very soon. So I have an idea. It's funny. We did that video last year. We filmed that video a year and a half ago in Phuket. We did the Piranacon story of the Straits Chinese, the Chinese diaspora, and how food changed and evolved. We never posted it to the channel. It just wasn't good enough. We halfway through our shoot, it kind of started raining, and we cut it short a little bit. And me and Dennis worked on it for a week, and we just weren't getting to where it was pretty clear that we just didn't nail it. This just wasn't going to be good enough. But we've kept that footage. And if we go shoot in Kuala Lumpur, our good friend Chin, if you ever watched our Pad Kapow video, my guest who was just visiting Bangkok at the time, the guy who, is talking about the elegance of the balance of Pad Kapow, that's Chin. He's a master chef whose specialty is the Chinese diaspora. And he's got his amazing place in Kuala Lumpur that we want to go and film with. And so my idea with Chin, which I haven't, Chin, if you're watching this is my idea. I keep meaning to call you to tell you, is to come down and do a story on the Chinese diaspora and how food kind of evolved and changed with him as our guide in KL. And then to link that in with our unused footage from Phuket and hopefully make something of that. Because there was some really cool stuff that we filmed that just never got shown on the channel. So maybe that's a chance for us to finally utilize some of that stuff. Yeah. As far as how it changed in America and Europe, yeah, it's a massive topic that we'll never run out of exciting things about. What was that documentary? Was it Searching for General Tso? Something like that? Basically about the evolution of Chinese American food. It's such a cool documentary. The Search for General Tso, I think, something like that. All right. Before OTR, I never consciously thought about the insane scale and impact of the Columbian Exchange. Could a video about the biggest food revolutions from agricultural revolution to GMOs be interesting? Yes. Before OTR, I never thought about that either. you know, 10 years ago, I was not walking around thinking about the Colombian exchange. Like, it's just, as the channel is kind of turned into focusing on food history, that is one of those things that just continues to be like, yeah, there have been a few points in time that really flipped food on its head. The Colombian exchange was one, obviously, because just, the introduction of so many ingredients to so many different places. Industrial revolution, as we covered on the show a lot, is also something where food changed completely. You went from everything being home cooked, slow cooked meals, women usually at home preparing meals all day for dinner, to all of a sudden everybody's going to work. Restaurants now become mainstream, and traditional flavors get simplified into something that can be served fast. Like, there are these sort of watershed moments, and then each country or culture individually sort of has its own points in time in which there were massive changes. I don't know, to answer your question, I don't know if that's something that I would do as a video. One day, a long-term plan is a book. We've been contacted by a major publisher, and I think one day, I've sort of always kind of kept in the back of my mind, how would everything that we do is kind of building towards this massive history of food. I would love to kind of just spend a year and just really, Bill Bryson it, just lock in for a year and just get deep in the weeds on some minutia. Tony Horowitz might be a better example than Bill Bryson. I just finished reading his James Cook book. I don't read food related stuff, but yeah, Tony Horowitz, probably my favorite writer. It's too big a topic to be a YouTube video to finish answering that question. But little pieces of that, GMOs, obviously, like, I don't know, it's a big topic. I have to be able to write it. That would be a very overwhelming one for me to do as a video that would still be watchable and entertaining. What's it like being a foreigner for an extended period of time? I lived in China for 2 years, but couldn't see myself living there permanently. It wears on you. Yeah. In Thailand, I don't feel it as much because it's a lot more, this is especially Bangkok City is very multinational. In China, it did hit the point where, and again, I'm not trying to be harsh on China, but you were always, I speak good Chinese. When I was living there, I spoke pretty close to perfect Chinese at one point. But you're Laowai. It doesn't matter. You're Laowai. You will always be Laowai, which is the sort of insulting but not really insulting name for foreigners. That's just you're just Laowai. I knew people who were white, who were born in China, to parents who had been living there for 40 years, but it doesn't matter. They've never lived outside of China. They're Laowai. You are Laowai. You are foreigner. And yeah, after a while, it does get grating to where I understood it wasn't meant with there's a nuance to how isolated China was for so long that people, for the most part, really don't mean badly by it, but it does get exhausting. And when I left, I remember that intense feeling of, I just want to be Adam again. I just want to be Adam. I just don't want to be Laowai. I'm just so tired after 12 years of being Laowai. I just want to be Adam again, and yeah, it was hard. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. That was one of the worst things about living in China, for sure. And that's, but I don't hate China for it. I don't blame China for that. I made the choice to live there. And I fully understand that like, for me as a foreigner to blame China for how it treated me as a foreigner, I had the choice to leave, so that's not an insult towards China. I don't mean that but for me personally and my own experience there, to answer your question, yes, it was exhausting. Have you considered cooperating with Thai Ranger as jungle survival episode? Thai Ranger, is that a YouTube channel, or is that like the Rangers of like the Army Rangers? Whatever that is, sure. There is a point in my life where I don't think I'm in the best physical peak right now to be a jungle survivor. I think me a few years ago would have been a little bit better suited as I pound my wine. I don't know that I would necessarily trust myself to survive in the jungle the way that I used to. Yeah, Dennis can do that without me. That's very much like Dennis's speed. He was out filming the war in Myanmar and literally like surviving the jungle for weeks on end while he was doing that. So yeah, I'll send Dennis without me to do the jungle survival episode. I can be the guide for what not to do. I'll be like Bear Grylls. You remember the Bear Grylls when that got exposed? Bear Grylls, the American TV show, when like photos surfaced after a while. This guy who's like survival expert, and then photos started to surface of him like, doing his shots where he's like, looks like he's somewhere 1,000 miles from society, and he's showing how to extract the water from a branch, and then just like you move the camera to another angle, and his hotel is like Holiday Inn is right behind him. Like that show was a joke. So yes, could I do that style of survivor content? I could be Bear Grylls for sure. What other Burmese salads have you tried apart from Lapetok? I couldn't name them. Just for Dennis's birthday when he was here 2 nights ago, when we were doing the edit for the last video, I think we had like 7 different kinds of Burmese salads with our dinner. That entire category of tokes in Myanmar is astonishing. The preserved lemon salads, the roselle leaves, anything with tea leaves, the samosa salads, the noodle salads. We've had 100 kinds of noodle salads. I absolutely I'm obsessed with the entire category of Burmese salads for sure. EHIS or EHIS Canadian, where in the US are you from? Born in New York City, raised in Virginia, Charlottesville, Virginia for most of my life. And my family for most of that time had a little cabin outside Asheville, North Carolina, which is where a lot of my mother's side of the family was based. So my home is Charlottesville, Virginia, but my passport says New York City, and my family is generally concentrated in the Asheville, North Carolina area. Stephen Lua, Adam, a quick question. After Doi Kanoi, I was wondering if there are any restaurants like Chef Noi's place. Tragically, no, nothing close to it. Yeah, if you don't know the context of this, Noi, who we featured in our What is Lao food video, tragically passed away last year. I'm still very close with Mick, her husband, and just talked to him yesterday. He's back in Thailand now, but yeah, I would love to say that there's something that fills the void for what Doi Kanoi was in terms of showcasing the diversity and reality of Lao cuisine, but no, I don't believe that there's anything that even is in the same category, much less close to that yet. But I certainly hope that something comes up to fill the void. I would be the first one to support it and do whatever we could to see it succeed. I'd love to see a video on how Hat Yai is bouncing back after the flood, maybe with Gary. For me, I love the food there so much. Oh yeah, no, me too. And actually, that Daria and I had a plan we were going to go down to Hat Yai, and then the floods hit, and we didn't end up making that trip this year. Yeah, I don't want Hat Yai to be defined by the floods. If we went to me, that would be, yes, that needs to be something we bring up, the floods, but that's such an uninteresting. It's like, my favorite, what's your favorite city in China? Daria, what's your favorite city in China?
My favorite city in China.
Wuhan. Yeah.
Yeah.
So Wuhan, now everybody knows about COVID. Wuhan was the punk rock capital of China. Wuhan is such a cool place that now it's just known for COVID. And, it's such a disservice to what is an incredible place. And if we only had a chance to film 1 or 2 shows in Hat Yai, that's such a cool city. There's so much more that I'd love to really get into. But I do want to know, that's a Gary topic of how it's recovering from the floods. And yeah, I would happily do that trip with Gary. Love that guy. Love his channel. It's fun to do anything with him. He's also better than me on camera. So it's fun to, he knows how to explain what food tastes like. So it's so much fun to sit there with Gary, because I can do what I do and say my little witty one-liners, but Gary can actually talk about the food that we're eating. It's good. In your initial post about this live stream, you mentioned the Bad Bunny halftime show. What are your thoughts there? I didn't even see it due to not following U.S. sports, but the controversy seems silly to me. Yeah, no, I brought it up not because of the halftime show. It was fantastic. I can't really tell where one song ends and the next one begins, because I'm a 40-something-year-old dinosaur who thinks music ended in 1997. But No, God, the stagecraft of it. That was an amazing halftime show. Bad Bunny. Like, I was so triggered by it after doing the sugar video, because we did this video where, again, when we're telling a story, we spend weeks like in a topic, in it. And yeah, we spent so much time getting deep into the weeds of how tragic the sugar industry was in places like Puerto Rico. And the whole set being designed as a sugar plantation was like, that's why I brought it up in the post about the live stream, was because that to me was like, oh gosh, we just did this story, and like I wanted to bring it up in the live stream because I was just curious whether anybody here who watched our sugar video thought of that, or if that was just me in the halftime show. But yeah, brilliant. No, it's great. Like, I can say that I don't understand the controversy about it, but there's, not a great time right now in my country. But yeah, no, unequivocally, anybody who says that they didn't think it was a good halftime show is lying. Like, I don't care if you like the music or not. It was a celebration. It was beautifully shot. The cinematography. Doing this OTR thing for 3.5 years now, I find myself very much noticing things I wouldn't have noticed about camera angles and choices and set design, and like, gosh, that was just unbelievably well done. Thank you for asking. Go Bills. I didn't watch the game. It was the only time in my entire adult life I watched a halftime show and not a minute of the football game. That was one of those games where I somehow wish both teams could have lost. Is it hard to research about Thai food and history with a language barrier? And a lot of OG info is in Thai. Do you have any Thai consultants to help you with your research? Yes, and yes. Okay, so somebody asked a long time ago about AI as a tool. We don't use AI as a tool, but I guess, first of all, translation has gotten so good. Pointing a camera phone at something and translating it has just gotten so good. But yes, I have had, whenever we need a Thai assistant, I have somebody who works for me as an assistant to help with translation. But yeah, no, it hasn't really been a barrier. Yeah, no, we have all the tools and resources we need, and there are some topics where I really kind of struggle with getting through the translations myself, and then I have somebody who helps me with it. But yeah, no, it's very this channel couldn't have happened 5 years ago, much less any longer. Modern tools have definitely made this viable and easy. It's not just Thai. I mean, these history of videos we're researching in 15 different languages, and that's not an exaggeration. Like, all information is more, on one hand, it's more reliable in its own language, but also you realize how biased news is, like how biased history is, that, how every country, every culture wants to own its side of the story. And so if you only read anything in one language, then you can't be confident that you know a complete story. So yeah, there's nothing at all, except if there's something that took place in the United States, then yeah, English language sources are going to be the best way to research something. But like, generally speaking, yeah, for actually verifying anything that you go with in terms of a history video, even one language isn't good enough to be able to trust that you're actually, there's any kind of facts behind it. But yeah, to answer your question, yes, on all fronts. Wiener Verza, could you imagine ever living in the US again? I don't know, like, not now, Jesus Christ, not now, like, not at this moment in time. Me and Daria have been back twice in the last year and a half. We went back for my brother's wedding. We went back for the Chicago Marathon. I hadn't been in almost a decade before that. I miss live sports and live music. Like, it is nice in the States to just, like, even in Charlottesville, in a small town like where I come from, it's nice to, like, every weekend there's 3 or 4 concerts that you want to go to, or little shows somewhere, and yeah, I miss that. I miss live music. Very different culture here, not the same at all in Thailand or anywhere in Asia. Live sports, it's crazy. I saw 2 Capitals games when I was back, and like, you forget that this is like, it's normal to just buy a ticket and go to a game, and there's Alex Ovechkin, which is right there. Like, you miss that living over here. I will fully admit I had a fantastic childhood. Charlottesville was an idyllic place to grow up. Like I would raise kids in that environment. I'm not down on the idea of ever living in the States again. Like I wouldn't say no to that, but right now, like, that sounds horrifying. Not at this moment in time. I love where I am. Like Thailand's great. You should move here. It's better. You guys just come here. Have you studied Thai or learning the language like you did with Mandarin? Slowly but surely, but not formally organized classes. I'm not a good language student. I learned by talking to people. I didn't study Chinese. I never took a Chinese class. I had a translation app called Pleco, which I used to learn how to write characters with my finger in the old days. Pleco was such a joke of an app. That was like 15 years ago. Primitive language translation app. But yeah, that was the only, like, I took 8 years of Spanish. I barely speak a word of it now. Took ancient Greek for a while. I remember like one sentence. I don't learn that way very well. That's not how my learning comprehension has ever really worked. I learn languages by talking to people. It's the reason why today, it's so funny that like when somebody comes up to us to speak Chinese, I will respond, Daria will respond, and they'll just talk only to me because Daria's Chinese is objectively much better than mine. She got a master's degree in Chinese language, doing it entirely in Chinese. Like her Chinese academically is so far beyond mine. It's like not even in the same universe. But I talk like a taxi driver, so I sound like a Chinese person. She sounds like an academic, and so people like I literally learned Chinese in a colloquial slang way because I learned Chinese by working in kitchens and talking to cab drivers and living in China. That's my Thai. I'm sure my Thai is disgraceful from an academic standpoint, but like I'm getting there in terms of at least being able to, talk to a cab driver. Do I think the U.S. or Canada is going to win an Olympic hockey? As a Capitals fan, I'm rooting for Team Canada because of Logan Thompson. Hopefully he's the starting goalkeeper. Tom Wilson's on Team Canada. They did snub Jacob Chikrin, which is a joke. Obviously, if Team USA wins, I'll also be thrilled. But I haven't been keeping up with the Winter Olympics very closely yet. We watched the biathlon, which is Daria's favorite Winter Olympic sport, and I will admit I'm kind of slowly getting into. Yeah, anyway, so that's my answer to the ice hockey question is really simple, which is I'm a diehard every game, never miss a second Washington Capitals fan, so I root for where the guys are. Anyway, yeah, I think that's gonna get us close. Do we have any more questions I haven't cut up to? I'm gonna give everybody like 2 more minutes. If there's something you're just burning to know, throw it in, or I'm gonna cut this off and go upload our new video. I'm excited to just every time we finish one, it's like, it's a giant weight lifted, and that's one thing I've gotten better at for our first year, 2 years. We're straight from one to the next. And finally, we've slowed down a little bit where, after we finish each video, because it's so much work, I'm going to give myself the next 2 days to decompress and hopefully like get a little bit of sunlight, which I never get a chance to really do while we're in production. Go live life, go out to lunch or dinner and make it up to Daria for being at work all day on Valentine's Day. But yeah, that's kind of where we are with the channel right now. And again, anybody who's following this, who supports us on Patreon, special thank you to you. And anybody who just took your time to watch this, it means a lot. Thank you for asking. Oh, we got one question in at the buzzer. If you could improve Thai cuisine by one technique, what would that be? What does that mean? What do you mean? If I could improve Thai cuisine by one technique? I don't know how to answer that question. Improving Thai cuisine is a complicated question because it's very much in the mind of the beholder. Like, who am I to say what should improve? But I would use less sugar. I eat more Burmese food than Thai food, if I'm going to be completely honest by now, because Central Thai food, I should say, like Bangkok food, because it's so sweet. Favorite regional cuisine from China? Answered that question earlier, but I'll just sum it up by saying, let's say Sichuan. For me, like one cooking method or preparation that they don't use traditionally, I see if I could improve Thai food with one preparation method that they don't use, I wouldn't say that this is improving Thai food. There's not a lot of braised, slow cooked dishes. Like, you know, I don't know. I'd have to think that one through. That's a really hard question. Yes, they did. Kimmy, I appreciate that. Yes, these new regulations that less sugar is now the default. That has to be the new default. Very smart. If you were giving business advice to a U.S. food importer, which regional dry cured hams would be worth the hassle of importing from China? Oh my gosh. Importing from China. So we're talking about mass produced stuff, not like grandma in Yunnan hanging up her la ro to dry. I don't know. Yeah. All right. This is a good time for me to cut this off. I'm getting the questions are starting to confuse me. All right. Thank you guys for being here. We'll do this again soon. Thank you for all your support. And yeah, cheers, everyone. Enjoy your morning or night, whatever it is. My voice is going. Time to wrap it up. New video online for Patreon tonight, and on YouTube Tuesday 7 p.m. Thank you guys. Really appreciate it.